Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Farmer. His name's Raj Giri. This is the Wrestling Inc. News and Notes show where we're going to talk about all sorts of stuff. We got Goldberg news. We've got some Eddie Kingston chat. We've got some Revolution chat. We got some Brock Lesnar chat, all sorts of stuff. Raj, are you ready to dive into this stuff?
Oh, let's do it. I'm in.
Yeah, we've got a lot of fun stuff to chat about. For everyone who's joining, again, this is one of the newer shows, so everything you do really helps out. So the likes, the comments, the shares, subscribes, please make sure to hit those up. And again, click the little bell button. It'll give you a notification every single time we go live for this one. But it's the same time every Thursday. So you shouldn't be late for it, right, Raj? You should be ready, regardless of what your clocks say.
Absolutely.
But for those of you who are here, gluten-free, JR Smith, Michael, Thomas, thanks for coming by. And everyone else who is slowly kind of gathering in the chat. Baby Ice, good to see you, Baby Ice. Always good to see you at all of these different shows. Raj, we've been getting pretty good reviews, by the way, speaking of comments on this show. People like us.
Yeah, thank you guys. Really appreciate it. And keep them coming. We really, it really does help us out.
Yeah, so let's get into the first news of the day. The news that I think is going to be kind of fun to chat about, but it's one of my favorites of all time. A good friend of mine, James Kincaid, calls him Box Office Bill. Goldberg is saying that after a deal with the devil, he believes he's owed one more match. In an interview with Sports Illustrated, Goldberg revealed that he was strongly considering having a retirement match. He said he'd prefer it was with WWE, but it didn't have to be. He said, quote, "You never say never, especially in wrestling, and they owe me one. That's all I can say. I made a deal with the devil and I did my job, and they owe me a retirement match. At the end of the day, at 56, it's not something where I'm sitting by the phone waiting for a call. I've got a few ideas how to do it on my own, possibly in Israel. So never say never." Goldberg didn't say specifically what the deal with the devil was regarding WWE, though some people seem to speculate it has to do with Elimination Chamber in Saudi Arabia. Raj, as the famous late 90s comedian would say, what is the deal?
I don't know. Goldberg had been doing these Saudi Arabia shows for years, obviously paid handsomely. But look, I think, I'm a Goldberg fan. I know Bret Hart isn't, and I can only imagine how upset he is because his career ended because of, during a match with Goldberg. But the guy is one of the biggest, box office attractions of our time. And people don't remember a lot of times how big he was in 1998. I mean, he was gigantic. And I mean, he was up there with Austin. I mean, there were months here and there where it was back and forth. I mean, he was gigantic. So if they come up with something fun for him, I think that'd be great. So I'm all for it. As far as being owed it, I mean, he's made millions and millions and millions of dollars. So it wasn't like he was doing this, these matches out of the goodness of his heart. But I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I don't know about owed unless there was something in that contract or something said to him where they say, if you do this for me, we'll do it for you. But you're right. I think a lot of people forget just how big he was. I always think back to a TV guide back in the late 90s, speaking of old days, TV guides. And I'll never forget, it had a small little picture of Stone Cold and a small little picture of The Rock. But then it had a giant full-size image of Goldberg talking. And the issue was about pro wrestling. And I always think they chose Goldberg to be the biggest picture of the three. Now that seems crazy looking back, but in the time, to your point, that's how big Goldberg was back in the day. He was huge.
Yeah, it's especially in 1998, 1999. WCW obviously lost a ton of money and self-destructed, and they kind of shot themselves in the foot when Goldberg lost that title. I kind of saw what they were trying to do with that, like having Goldberg chase and create a new story, but. Yeah, he was a huge deal, and it's kind of one of those things that unless you were there, you just will never know. And he was just gigantic. Him and Austin both. I mean, Austin endured a lot longer, but Goldberg to this day when he comes back, he pops ratings.
Yeah, he was a different animal. Now, Ryan Silva in the chat is saying, if he's one of the biggest box office attractions, why did WCW lose 60 million the last year? Raj, I've read the Nitro book, but would you like to comment on that?
Well, I mean, 1999, they were a disaster. So, I mean, that's the easy answer. But in 1998, they were hugely profitable. In 1997, granted, Goldberg wasn't the big star he was yet, but yeah, 1999, 2000. I mean, those are just, really bad WCW years.
2 years in pro wrestling is a huge difference, especially over the past, since the Monday Night Wars kind of time period. I mean, even you look at how TNA was doing at one point, and then 2 years later, how different it was. You look at Ring of Honor, kind of same thing on smaller levels. AEW to a degree as well. ECW. 2 years is a lifetime. 2 years ago in WWE, if you were to go back 2 years to today, you would never think it would be where it is today. So 2 years is a big time, but Baby Ice says, I blame Judy Bagwell. JR say Goldberg was always a blast to watch from the entrance to the finish. Yeah, I loved Goldberg when he was doing his thing.
His matches were just nonstop adrenaline.
Yeah, even when you knew he was going to crush, even if it was like Jerry Flynn was his opponent, you're like, all right, here we go.
Gotta watch this. It was like a Tyson fight.
Yeah, you knew he was going to crush the guy, but you're like, whatever, it's Goldberg. I'm into this.
Right.
But real quick, kind of for fun question, if he did have a last match, who would you like to book him against? Fantasy book, and we'll say it happens at SummerSlam. So you can build it, you cannot build it, doesn't matter. Just whoever.
A not going to happen pick would be Steve Austin. That's always been like a dream match since the 90s. And I think they're both smart enough that they could work a match around each other's strengths and weaknesses to do something fun. I don't think that'll happen. And without that, geez, maybe Seth Rollins. I think Seth Rollins could get an awesome match out of Goldberg, something memorable. But I think Seth Rollins would have to win if that were the case. But I don't. Goldberg doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would care about putting someone over on his way out.
No, I don't think you would. And I'll be honest. I think I'd like to see him win his last match. I don't think he should be in a match with like a big name. I mean, like I'd like to see him have his last match be with like a Baron Corbin, someone who it's okay if he loses, but Goldberg can stand tall one more time and look good. I don't know if beating Goldberg means anything anymore. Like if Seth Rollins beat Goldberg, I don't know if he could talk about it for 3 months as the guy that beat Goldberg anymore,
Yeah, so, but Corbin did that with Kurt Angle, and that didn't really do much.
I'd want Goldberg to beat Corbin though.
Okay,
like it's just a feel good, like a little feel good moment kind of thing.
Yeah. Maybe AJ Styles. I mean, AJ Styles is at the stage of his career where he doesn't need the win. And again, I think AJ could get a lot of these big muscular dudes have their best matches with the smaller, more acrobatic, high flying guys. And
Raj, you just opened my mind. Goldberg should have his last match in the Boneyard with AJ Styles.
Yeah, absolutely.
We should have another Boneyard match. This is why I will never be a booker. Like Boneyard.
Anytime. That should be the go-to. You need Lesnar versus Omos.
That'll Boneyard. Be my new pay-per-view. Get rid of Hell in a Cell. We're doing Boneyard every year.
the big six now.
Sev saying, I wish WCW never lied about Goldberg's winning streak. In my opinion, that completely derailed him. In WCW, don't insult your fans. I don't think it really mattered, personally.
So few people were on the internet back then that they really knew that WCW was lying, but it didn't help. I would have rather just kept it legit for sure.
Yeah, there were a few times where like on Nitro, they'd be like, yeah, he's got 70 wins. And then Thunder would roll around. He's at 95 wins. Wow. He's been busy.
Yeah, it wasn't necessary. It's not like, it's like they were trying to get him to, 100 and his 100 100th victory on pay-per-view, but he didn't need it. He was fine where he was. They didn't need those Memorex chants. You know, he was fine where he was.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got, by the way, Seth says Orton, if he comes back, would be a good one to end the career. The old legend killer bit.
Yeah, and that's one of the few big names he hasn't faced.
And then Justine says, hello. It's good to see Justine in the chat.
Oh, Justine.
So yeah, let us know in the chat if you have any final matches you'd like to see Goldberg in before, heading out. Maybe scripts from NXT. Not happen. But we got some more news, and this is an interesting one. Eddie Kingston has been interesting to me as of late. He's been a little interesting on Twitter lately, saying he hates it here in regards to AEW after they announced he would be in a ladder match. Isn't really in the ladder match all that much when the show comes around. Now there's a thing saying he quits. There's a thing now he's saying he's an independent contractor and he's promoting other shows. Is there anything to this Eddie Kingston thing, or is this all just TV?
Yeah, he's going to ROH. He's already, he's on ROH's debut episode. This is just an angle to get him on ROH. If it wasn't an angle, they wouldn't have put it up on their social media. But, and I think it's good. ROH does need some of the established bigger AEW stars. So I think, Eddie Kingston wasn't doing much on the main roster. So I think it makes sense for him to help build up ROH. Now, the part where I think it's bad is you had MJF last year saying he wants to leave AEW and he's willing to go to WWE, without using the initials. And then you got FTR, basically, talking about becoming free agents in April. And whether that's a shoot or a work, it's hard to say because their contracts are up in April. And now you got Eddie Kingston saying he wants to quit. And I just think it looks bad for AEW to be doing storylines where people are saying they want to leave your company at a time when the other company is so hot. It's you want to be like the place to be. You want to be the place where everyone wants to go to, not the one where everyone's thinking about leaving or wanting to go to the competition. So I think you could get Eddie Kingston to ROH without saying he hates it here and he hates AEW and whatnot. I just think that's counterproductive.
Yeah, I like when they blur the story, like reality and that kind of thing, but sometimes it just makes me feel icky, I always say, and it makes me feel icky when so many people want to leave. And especially when they're people who everyone likes there. It's not like if WWE was doing this and Baron Corbin was doing it because of the kind of character Corbin is, we'd all be like, goodbye, get out of here. We hate you, pack up and go, and everyone would get into it. But we don't want to see Eddie Kingston leave. We don't want to see Eddie Kingston hate AEW. We don't want to see FTR hate AEW. We don't want to see, I don't know. It's just a weird thing. That's why I'm like, that's why I don't know if AEW, if he is serious or not. I don't know. It's a weird.
He's not, but that Eddie Kingston's not. I don't know about FTR, but Eddie Kingston is part of the storyline. He might have some frustration because he's hardly been used at all. But that's all part of the storyline. But again, you don't want to make your opposition look like the place where everyone wants to go. You don't want to make the place to go.
Yeah, you also don't want to make it look like, I think, the smaller of the properties you own is the place to go either. Like, again, using WWE as an example, back when, I can't imagine if you had someone on Raw going, I hate it here, I'm going to NXT. It sucks at Raw and SmackDown. You'd be like, that's weird. Right. Or if there's the old ECW brand and they're like, I'm leaving for ECW. I don't know if that makes sense, but we got a question about this, Raj, and or a comment. I don't know if it's necessarily a question, but at TS Peeps says ladder etiquette for referees. Raj, I'm going to put it all on you. What do you think about ladder etiquette for referees?
Oh God. Oh man. Last night, it's funny because I made a tweet, which was half kidding, just saying like it wasn't right that the referees were helping Hobbs the match, and it was half kidding because obviously they're not trying to help him win; they're trying to stabilize the ladder. Hobbs, man, that guy just pulverized this ladder. And then it was destroyed, and he used that ladder, and there was a good ladder really close by that he could have grabbed, and that's what I think he should have done. And this is where I think production should have like chimed in to the referees and told Hobbs, hey, go get the other ladder. Because this one it's unusable. But instead, whatever, they had to hold it up. That's fine. They're stuck in that situation. You want to make sure that Hobbs is safe. So sure, that's cool. Hold a ladder, but don't shoot it the whole time. Don't shoot the referees. It was like 3 minutes of them just going back and forth, and you just see the referees are like clinging on for dear life at the foot of the ladder. There's 3 of them. Just keep the camera on Hobbs. Cut to the wrestlers outside the ring. When Hobbs grabs it, cut to a replay. Do something. But seriously, it was like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And I got people saying, "Oh, in 1993, or maybe 93, 17 years ago, Edge and Cena, the referee was holding." It's like, yes, they were, but they didn't like stay on the shot where the referee's holding on. Fuck, if screw ups happen in wrestling matches all the time.
Yes,
and you got to make up for it and move on. They weren't shooting the referee for 3 minutes, going back and forth, showing the referee holding the ladder. And I think that's just the thing. The production, the referees did the right thing in that situation. They should have worried about the safety of the wrestler, but I do think they should have shot it differently. And the production, the director should have made sure that they're not keep going back to showing the referees holding on to that ladder the way they were. And look, if this happens a lot, maybe it's just a better thing to have a rule that says referees, for the safety of the wrestlers, can hold on to the ladder and stabilize the ladder, and just say that's, during the match, be like, hey, referees are allowed to stabilize the ladder. So anyway, it's one of those things that means nothing ultimately. And just people were in a fury just all over the place on the internet today. But I didn't think the referees did anything wrong. They did what they had to in that situation.
Yeah, I agree. You don't want anyone to get hurt, but also it's very similar to the blading situation, right? Where it's one thing if someone, blades themselves, makes themselves bleed, but don't let us watch the referee hand them the blade, them cut themselves, and then take the blade back and put it away,
Or don't catch the wrestler cutting themselves. You gotta have that stuff planned. So the director should know to cut away, cut to something else when you're going to freaking cut yourself with a razor blade, which to me is an outdated practice as it is. But if you're going to do it, don't do it on camera where people can easily see it or see the blade.
Right. Yeah. One of the things, it's funny, in the past, we've said that WWE is almost too well produced and it doesn't feel live and risky, where AEW sometimes used to feel very live and anything could happen. And it almost feels like they've gone too far that way, where it's cool, but at the same time, to your point, we need to hide some things, or at least try to minimize it, even to the point of escaping the cage. Wrestlers will have the referee open the door, but the camera's not focusing on the referee holding the door when they're opening the door to a cage. They're focusing on the wrestler getting out of the cage. So,
but that is part of the rule too, that the referee opens the door,
right.
And in Hell in Cell, they have the key to unlock the door. So, again, make it part of the rule that the referee can help stabilize the ladder, or don't shoot the referees holding it, or, again, you can't compare last night, where it was 3 minutes of going back and forth to the referees holding it, to matches where you see it for a split second, a second max, during a match. It was way more sloppy. And I felt like that's something, again, it's a learning moment. I feel like the production should just work on it, not focusing and knowing how to shoot around that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think also, because things happen in live production, so I don't blame anybody. This isn't me upset with anyone, but there is, like we said, it's just kind of I think if all the other stuff we talked about, like the bladings weren't shown and things like that, then this would have been one of those, things happen, move on. But when it becomes a repeated thing where you go, well, it happened 2 weeks ago, something kind of happened 3 weeks ago, you got to look back and go, okay, time to clean this up a little bit.
Yeah.
Darla. Oh yeah, go ahead.
And just to be clear, I think referees should hold the ladder when they feel like they need to, for sure. And so I'm not against that at all. I'm just against the production of it. Like a wrestler, when he throws a punch, he shouldn't be hitting him with full force, but it should look real. It should, but anyway.
And if it's not going to, shoot it from an angle so we can't tell that it doesn't look real.
Yeah. Or if it misses, when you show replay, don't show the miss.
Yes. Very obvious stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, much respect to referees. That's such a hard job they have there. We got a couple comments here. J.R. Smith says, going back to the Eddie Kingston thing, I think all out put a black cloud over AEW until they finalize the situation with Punk and move past it. The black cloud will continue to darken their doorstep. Does feel like it's been a little weird at AEW since that happened.
I don't know if it's that or just losing Punk. And again, Punk is injured, but I just wonder if Punk was on TV, if the ratings would be a little higher. And real quick, I know we didn't have this on our agenda, but I was going to mention the ratings real quick because they came out pretty shortly before we had put it together our sheet. But AEW was down a lot this week. Dynamite was down to 833,000 viewers, down 19% from last week. And they did a 0.27 18 to 49 rating, which was down 23% from last week. Last week didn't have competition from the NBA. This week did. But a year ago was the same thing. They weren't down near week to week as much as they were this year. So I think a lot of it had to do with Tony Khan's announcement last week. And then a lot of it was the NBA. And then a lot of it, probably last week's episode, just didn't suck them in. So,
yeah, they've had some trouble with their TV as of late hasn't felt can't miss.
And the audience was second lowest of the year, just slightly behind 2 weeks ago, which was lowest. And the 18 to 49 rating was one of the lowest they've done since NXT moved to Tuesdays. It was tied with 2 weeks ago for the fourth lowest in the 18 to 49 demo. So not good numbers, especially heading into a pay-per-view.
Yeah, if you look at a lot of their matches like this week, a lot of people I like, but a lot of people who also haven't been on TV regularly. The tag team battle royal, a bunch of teams that aren't really featured on Dynamite very often. The face of the Revolution ladder match. I love Hobbs, but he hasn't been on Dynamite in months, and Commander, I don't remember when he's been on Dynamite in the past.
He's never been on Dynamite.
Yeah. And then, a lot of those guys like Ortiz and Eddie Kingston, they're not on regularly. Like it's a lot of people that aren't on regularly. So I don't really have that invested interest in them. So even Hobbs winning, I'm happy for him. I'm actually a really big Hobbs fan. I'm also like, I mean, come on, you've been gone for 3 months. Are you really going to win the title from Samoa Joe? I don't know.
Right.
So in any case, yeah, we've got a couple things here in the chat. We've got asking, J.R. Smith asks if AEW's production quality has dropped since they started. I don't remember these issues being a problem when they launched. Interesting point.
Gosh. I don't remember seeing like the blading stuff as much a couple years ago. Like last year, they had the big cage match of the blood and guts where it was very obvious, and there's been some, but I don't know. I almost feel like the production has gotten better, but they have been making bigger mistakes, if that makes sense.
I think because it feels a little bit, and I don't know, I'm not backstage or anything, obviously, but it does feel a little bit like maybe they've got more cameras and more angles, so it's harder for them to direct than it used to be. Like when you only have 4 cameras you're choosing between, it's very easy to know where to look and where to be at. But when you've got 18 cameras, now you've got a big screen of screens that you've got to look at. If you ever watched directing of a live pro wrestling show, it's intense, by the way. I've never even seen like WWE's, but I've been backstage at some other places, and it's intense. Like what those guys have to look at and balance and direct.
Yeah, if you go to a WWE event and you're sitting on the hard cam side, like further back, you'll see, if you go to a WWE television tape, you'll see this giant screen with like 18 different squares, and they're pretty small, and having to, know when to cut back and forth, and that's where experience comes in. AEW is a newer company; they'll get it. You look at Kevin Dunn; he gets a lot of flack, but he's been doing this a long time, and it's live pro wrestling. Pro wrestling isn't real, so you're obviously gonna always get some botches. You're gonna get mistakes, but they cover it up really well, and that's his experience.
Yeah, so we'll see. Hopefully they get those things panned out. But we also have some news on the WWE sale. Speaking of companies that are not new, and no one bought it yet. No one has said they're going to buy it. But Kevin Nash commented about it, and he said he can't wrap his head around the $9 billion asking price, noting that it was $6 billion 2 months ago. And he said that maybe Vince is trying to delay the sale, and compared it to selling a house. Kevin Nash said, it's almost like I have no intention of selling my house, but if someone called me up and said, I'll give you $3.5 million, I'm selling my house. But if you give me market value for it, then I'm like, nah. Nash thinks that McMahon is simply trying to get enough money to make the ordeal of turning the company over to outside ownership worth it. That said, it sounds like Endeavor is out of the running. Some other people are out of the running. Raj, you've sold some stuff before. Do you think that maybe Vince is asking for a price knowing he's not going to get it?
Well, so Ari Emanuel of Endeavor, he basically said, they have a lot of debt from the purchase of USC. He said something like WWE is a fantastic company, but they're not looking to add on to their debt. And that, to me, it seems legit. It doesn't seem like something that like a negotiation ploy. Comcast, NBC Universal, they said, David Faber on CNBC, basically while interviewing Nick Khan, said, oh yeah, Comcast is out of the running. And Nick Khan was like, I don't know. But, when you think of those two being out, it's like, who does that leave? And, you got Disney incurring big losses with Disney Plus. You got Netflix, who is not really in that space. They haven't really expressed much interest in live sports. That kind of leaves, Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. And, and maybe that's kind of what they want, because the money's not an issue for them. So, I mean, they kind of, to me, seem like the top pick. And I know a lot of people have an issue with it, but that just seems like the reality of where it's at.
Is it possible these guys saying they're not interested, Endeavor, NBC, whoever, that they're just saying that from their negotiation standpoint? Because if everyone says we're not interested, it kind of forces WWE to lower the price, does it not?
I'm trying to think of the last time a company with a big purchase like this said they weren't interested and came back to the table. I'm sure it's happened many times, but I can't think of any. I know, like WWE, with WWE specifically, there was once with Spike TV, where Spike TV came out and said, we're not interested in renewing, because I guess WWE was asking for too much. And that was it. They had to go to USA. They lost advertising rights, selling their own advertising. And it cost them a lot of money, but it's possible. I don't think that's it. I think you would just keep quiet about it.
Darla says, Meltzer said if it's Saudi, then they probably keep Vince and have him run creative.
It's definitely a possibility if Vince wants to stay on. Again, we talked about this, I think, last week.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of these big corporations are in tune with the day-to-day of who's running creative and whose ideas are what and things like that. They just kind of look at the numbers. So I could see, and I'm sure most of these companies see Vince McMahon as the guy still.
And then Elizabeth says Endeavor dropped out of the running now. It sounds like, unfortunately, that it will be Saudi Arabians might get it. And then we got J.R. Smith says $9 billion is the $6 billion plus future profit potential. Raj, as far as future profit potential goes, that's part of the original sale anyways, right? Like if I'm selling for $6 billion, that's kind of the idea.
Well, again, with the Saudis, the profit doesn't really matter. It's kind of like almost like a public relations thing, showing like they have these wholesome worldwide entertainment companies coming in, and whatever you want to call it, but just kind of it's more of a public face, a public display. Whereas for NBC and ABC, yes, it is. It depends on profits. And again, I feel like $9 billion was the price they put out there to have a high end, and they would come down because, again, in the sale, you want to start high and then come down, not start at the price you want to go to and then go lower. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. I mean, I think but even at $8 billion, it would take NBC Universal, it would take Disney a long time to not only pay that off to where it becomes worth it, but then to start actually making money with it.
Yeah. Because even if they're profiting $500 million a year for $8 million, that's 16 years before you break even on it.
Yeah, and I'm rounding. I think their profit was like $300 million last year. They did like $1 billion in revenue, but it was like it might have been less than that actually. Just don't quote me. I'm just rapping right now. I'll look up more concrete figures for next week, but assuming it's 300 million, think how long it takes to make it to 8 billion. So
it takes a long time. On Twitter, last thing on this, at GavWav, I'm guessing you say it, GAVWAV, says, just admit, Raj, your financial series with Jack Farmer is all leading to a finale of you guys buying WWE. Raj, we've been found out.
Spoiled it. We got to come up with a new ending.
And when that happens, Raj, every week, Boneyard.
If you thought you loved the first Boneyard match,
I'm going to be like Teddy Long and The Undertaker. I mean, you're going to go one-on-one in the Boneyard. The crowds hate me because there's no main events on any shows.
They're just sitting there watching the screen every week.
For the 24/7 championship. So we got a two other topics I definitely want to get to, but we got two things that came up I want to bring to you. On Twitter, we were also asked by T Smitty 3000, and we also got a super chat from T Smitty 3000. Says on Twitter, asked who you think should leave AEW for WWE and vice versa. T Smitty says in the super chat, I believe Omega should go to WWE and become a household name. In my opinion, Jade Cargill is a sneaky big fish for WWE. Jade with the WWE machine is money. What say you, Raj? Is there anyone, if you did an even trade, let's say across the board, who are some folks you think would be better off? Let's take financial stuff and like that kind of thing away. Just who do you think fits the culture, I guess, in both ones? It would be a good switch.
Omega is interesting because you just see what they've done with Cody. And they've done a fantastic job. And, Omega, he can talk, he can wrestle, he has charisma. He's not just, he's not just a work rate guy. He checks all the other boxes. And with Triple H in charge of creative, I could see him being a big one. I could see that being huge. And it's not like they're doing a lot with him right now. We'll get to the Revolution preview soon, but he hasn't cut a big promo since he came back like in November. I mean, we're talking 5 months, and he hasn't had like a big spotlight featured on him. And like this last Wednesday, they were out for a minute and got laid out, and that was the whole build basically to their match coming up. So he's someone that I could see a fresh coat of paint helping him out. And gosh, if you're going the other way, Seth Rollins is killing it right now in WWE, but I could see him being huge in AEW.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think Seth Rollins would be great over there. I think I think Omega over in WWE would be great. I think I think would be sneaky good for AEW would be Chad Gable. I think someone who can talk on the mic, who's entertaining, who can wrestle really well. I think he could find himself in a lot of good stuff over there. Kind of the way Kurt Angle had a renaissance in TNA. I think he could do the same for himself over in AEW.
And Chad Gable's great. I just worry about if you're not a main event guy in WWE, it's easier to fall, to get that TV time in AEW. Whereas Rollins, he's going to get it,
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think Chad Gable has a ton of unlimited potential, and they could do something with it if they wanted to.
I certainly don't think he'd be the splashiest, AEW pick. No disrespect to Gable, but I think that he could carve out a bigger role for himself over there if he had the opportunity. And I think Jade Cargill is a superstar wherever she is. I think she's just a force of nature.
Yeah, she's a potential crossover superstar. So
yeah, she's gonna do big things. Now this is the bigger news. This is like the biggest news of the week, and I didn't realize I was gonna ramble on with the other stuff for so long. But Brock Lesnar, he's gonna be facing Omos at WrestleMania, but that was not the original plan for him. It's being reported that he was going to be working with potentially Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. That is not happening. What are your thoughts of this change for Brock Lesnar for WrestleMania? Do you think it means anything? Do you think it's just typical things are written in pencil? Is there writing on the wall? What say you?
No, I think Brock is smart. No offense, but yeah, Fightful had reported that at one point it was Brock and Bray, and Brock nixed that one. And apparently Elimination Chamber was supposed to have Brock win initially. Brock turned down the Bray Wyatt match. They changed that finish. Poor Bobby Lashley. And look, I think Bray Wyatt has some crazy, fantastic ideas that could work. He came back hot. The whole build to his return was awesome. And then now it's like, 1 week he says he's Uncle Howdy. The next Uncle Howdy's giving him Sister Abigail. The next week they're together. The next week they're trying to get Alexa Bliss. The next week he's doing the Muscle Man dance. It's just all over the place. There's no central story that's going anywhere with this thing. Seth Rollins said something a couple of years ago where most wrestlers don't come out better from a feud with Bray Wyatt. And that's just true. And Brock Lesnar is one of those guys. He's got that serious Mike Tyson appeal. He's one of the few guys, very few guys, and he might be the only guy in wrestling that has that. And to have him in those silly Muscle Man sketches and having Brock, and doing the whole sketch that they were doing, it just doesn't fit his character. It would be the wrong choice. So kudos to Brock for recognizing that.
I also think just one of the limitations of a Brock Lesnar is I don't think he could play along with the Firefly Funhouse shtick. I can't imagine, them looking scary and trying to intimidate him and him selling it in any way. I feel like he would everything would look minimized because he'd be like, this is stupid.
Him just being in the Firefly Funhouse, just not only would he make the Firefly Funhouse look stupid, but he would be brought down a notch just being in there.
Right. Right. And John Cena was in the Firefly Funhouse, and it wasn't as bad as I think Brock Lesnar, the Firefly Funhouse. But
we were desperate for stuff back then, though, because we were watching, hours of empty arena wrestling. So it was like anything that's mildly entertaining. That Cena thing didn't do him any favors either, but he's such a huge star that it didn't matter. But that whole segment basically buried him.
Yeah, I think everyone just kind of left that segment going, Okay, I guess. I don't.
I think I liked it. They did an NWO thing. That's
right.
cool.
It was cool to see John Cena in the NWO. That's a fun visual. But yeah, I don't get. I agree with. If that's the case, I agree with Brock because I don't really get. I feel like it's very bad. It's a very bad sign, regardless how you feel about Bray, that he's had 4 months of time to build a character and story, has had more story time opportunities on TV than anyone that's not in the bloodline. And your first kind of move in your build to your WrestleMania opponent is the Muscle Man dance. Like, that was what you came out with. Like,
yeah.
Cody Rhodes was kind of coming off of nothing but the Royal Rumble win, and he cut good promos, and he sold me on that match. But you're making fun of Lashley for being muscly. Like, that's your move after 4 months of building you to this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd like to see Bray get away from the spookiness and the supernatural and the Firefly Funhouse and do something that's personal, like a personal issue. And there's no magic, there's no maggots on the ring, or they had that one WrestleMania, just a personal issue. And you bring God, oh my gosh, what's wrong with my memory? Is his wife.
The she was the ring announcer. JoJo?
JoJo. Oh my gosh, how am I forgetting this? But just something personal where it leads to a big feud. So I'd like to see Bray in something normal.
Yeah, I think because a lot of people, even with the it looks like it was JoJo.
JoJo Offerman.
So it's but even with the spooky stuff, I always say when you look at like the Undertaker and Kane, yes, there was supernatural, but at the end of the day, their story was they were brothers who wanted to fight, or Kane wanted to fight his older brother, and there's a reason for him to fight. I don't really get what Bray Wyatt cares. Like, I don't understand why he's in pro wrestling, I guess. I don't know why he's
here. And what's Uncle Howdy? What's the whole point there?
Yeah.
We've had months to explain something.
Yeah. So
anyway,
I'm kind of over it, but we'll see. Joe Smo, I disagree with you here. You say Brock is overrated and hasn't helped anyone since his return. You could say Drew, but even that match didn't really help. It was what happened after. I disagree because I think he also helped Roman Reigns. I mean, he put over Roman Reigns. He put over Drew. I think Brock helps a lot of people.
And with Drew, it was tough because it's during the pandemic and there were no fans during Drew's whole title reign. So Brock tried, but it's hard to get that balance when you have that kind of condition.
And then Elizabeth, we were talking about Bray's wife, not Brock's.
Yeah.
Veggie Gamer says, he said, move your behind, and then stared at the camera and said, and erase your mind. Kubrick has nothing on this masterpiece. We'll see. Hopefully it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out with Brock and Bobby or Bray Wyatt and Lashley, though, because if it's terrible, I think that stink is going to be on Bray for a long time.
Yeah.
Because everyone will say Brock was right. Hopefully I'm wrong, though. Hopefully it's great, because why wouldn't I want to be entertained?
Absolutely. The better it is, the better it is for everyone.
Yeah. So let's talk about Revolution. It's this weekend, and it's going to be it's 8 matches. Got a feeling it'll be 4.5 hours at least, because that's just the AEW way. But let's run through this card, and everyone let me know what you think as we go through it. We're going to start at what this list has at the bottom, and that is Ricky Starks versus Chris Jericho. Raj, I really hope Ricky Starks gets the win, and this is his slow ascent back to that world title picture. What say you?
Yeah, I think he has to win. I think you look at Jericho, he really wants to elevate some of these guys. I feel like Action Andretti, he got a little boost, but this wasn't exactly a 1, 2, 3 kid kind of storyline that they had for him afterwards. He's basically a lower level guy on the show. But on the counter side, it's probably the right place for him right now. He's probably not ready. Whereas Ricky Starks is. I think Ricky Starks is ready for that next level. He's great on the mic. He has great presence, good, great charisma. So I think he has to win here.
Yeah, I agree. And he's someone, if I'm AEW, I'm saying in the next 3 years, he's one of my top guys, like in the company. Easy. But as we continue on, we got AEW World Trios Championship, the Elite versus the House of Black. Raj, I'll let you go first on this one.
I think the Elite, again, they haven't had the titles for that long. I think they should win, even though I think it'd be better if they didn't, just because I'd like to see Omega out of this trios title picture and get back in the singles picture, because I think they could really use him right now. It just feels so shallow at the top. And I think they could use Omega because he's one of their biggest stars.
I agree. I agree 100%. Even though the Elite just got the titles, I really hope they lose them. I think House of Black needs something to keep them on TV. I like their look and I like the guys in it. So I think have them with titles gives them a reason to be on TV. Even though there's not really much build up to this one. But the Elite also, I agree with you. They're better used. Kenny should be in the world title picture at all times or sniffing around the world title picture at all times. I don't think he should ever be away from it again. He should be either in a rivalry that's going to put him in the world title picture or in the world title picture at all time. AEW should feature him like the exclusive star that WWE has never had, and we have him, right, and show him off. I don't know why they don't do that, but
yeah, I feel like the build up to this match for an Omega match has just been bad. And I also think the trios division, I think it should go away. I just feel like it's an extra title that's not needed. They have too many titles as it is. It doesn't mean anything. These matches are not drawing ratings or doing anything. Get it away. The Young Bucks meant so much more in the tag division. The tag division feels so shallow right now. I was watching that Battle Royal the other night, and it's like, man, this is the tag division now, where 2 years ago, it just felt like AEW was head and shoulders above everyone else when it came to tag team wrestling.
Yeah, I agree. Their tag team division was insane. But yeah, now, again, it's not even a shot at the people who are in it. They're just not on TV. Right. We don't see them wrestle, so I don't care about them anymore. Right. Lucha Brothers, I love, but they're just sporadically in these Rumble matches now. So I go, okay, I don't really care. But
Jeff Jarrett's in there, which no offense to Jarrett, he looks great, but come on.
Yeah, it's so I hope House of Black wins. My money's on Elite though. AEW Women's World Championship match: Jamie Hayter, Saraya, and Ruby Soho. I think for this one, it feels like Ruby Soho has the support of the people. I feel like she's the one a lot of people are interested in. I'm hoping she walks away with this one because I also think there's enough stuff going on with Jamie Hayter that she can pivot to something else and start finally building a mid card to the women's division.
I disagree with you on this one. I think Jamie Hayter, I think I don't know if they dropped this storyline or if it's just put on the back burner for now, but her and Britt Baker, I feel like there's a good story there. And I feel like she should retain, leads to more problems between her and Britt. And that leads to a title match at Double or Nothing.
By the way, we got to get some of these in here. House of Black, I'm hoping for, just because I don't like the Bucks. House of Black should, from Baby Ice Night 1 says House of Black should win, but I feel the Elite will retain. Baby Ice says Tony sees you wanting trios to go away and is adding 4 more titles to 2023. We got a lot of Jamie Hayter, people agreeing with you. Isn't it odd? Would you have guessed a few months ago that Saraya would have been in a AEW Women's Championship match and neither of us would have picked her to win it?
I mean, something's missing.
Yeah, it's just not hitting the way I would have thought it would have. But I do like that she's involved with like Tony Storm and her, and now Riho was on. I think the more you can get the women's division interacting, the better. But now he's got to make it consistent.
Yeah, I think the problem with the AEW women's division, and you see this a lot in WWE too, is they clump so many women together in the same programs as opposed to doing singles programs. It's just one-on-one, no other people in the corner. And I always feel like those are the most effective.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Darla's wondering when Thunder Rosa's coming back. I believe it's soon, from what I understand, but I don't know timeline.
She's doing Spanish commentary right now, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I would think it's pretty soon.
And Night One saying Saraya stealing it would be a subtle shocker. Antoine Phillips saying, I like Saraya's win, maybe brings in Mercedes or Jade finally wants the women's title. I would love Jade to just unify those two and be the champion.
Yeah, they don't really need two right now.
Yeah. We got, after that, we have the AEW TNT Championship match, Samoa Joe versus Wardlow. Which one do you think gets the win? What do you think of this one?
I think it's got to be Wardlow. I think they need to get him back on track. He was so hot last year. He's clearly one of the guys that could be one of their kind of more, quote unquote, homegrown stars. Granted, he didn't train with AEW. He worked the indies before, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think they need to get him back. So Wardlow here.
I agree.
I almost don't want him to win though, because I want him out of that title picture and moving on to the world title picture. And I feel like it derails him a little like it did last year.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I kind of get what you're saying, because I'd rather him in that world title picture too, but I think him taking a loss right now would just sting really bad for him. So, but I also think, I don't know, maybe him being the champion and just racking up wins over people for a while, like a Goldberg, for a little bit. I don't know, but I do think Wardlow gets the win and Samoa Joe probably becomes a Ring of Honor guy, is what I'm predicting.
Yeah.
But then we get the Texas Death Match, Jon Moxley versus Hangman Page. This one has probably some of the most actual build to it on the show, but really it's just, you beat me in a match, so I beat you in a match, and then you beat me in a match, so now I'm going to beat you in a match.
Right.
It's a kind of a best of 7 at this point, really.
Yeah.
These guys are two of the faces of AEW, the way I look at it. So I think it'll be good. It'll be fun. I want Adam Page to win. I think that he's someone who could be a big star for them. I think Moxley's kind of untouchable in the star category for AEW. So I'd like to see Page win and kind of get back on track to being a top star. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think Adam Page wins it. I feel like it's more important for him to win it. I feel like if he loses, that's like 3-1,
Yeah.
And you want to build some young stars, some guys that don't have that WWE cred. And Adam Page is one of those guys. So I think he's the one I'd go with for sure.
Yeah. And I think, again, he's one of those guys. There's certain people that AEW has that I think helps them stand out from a character standpoint. And Moxley, like I said, he's there already and he'll be there forever now. Kind of like a Jericho. Jericho could lose for the next 6 months and he'll still be Jericho.
Right.
Page isn't quite there yet. I want to see him get some wins.
Yeah, Moxley, a win here does nothing for him. A loss here does nothing for him. So, and Page, with him, a win helps him out. So definitely Page.
Tornado Anthony Y doing some fantasy booking. If Joe wins and MJF wins, then could we get Wardlow and MJF at Double or Nothing? Possibly.
I'd like to see it. We got to see how MJF does as champ. I feel like so far they've been doing the same stuff with him as before he was champ, and that's I think it's been hurting him. I think they need to either do something new with him. If they don't, then it might be time to move the title on to someone else.
Yeah, I know this hasn't been my favorite build for MJF during this run. So I know he's great. I agree with you. I feel like, we've seen this before. I don't know. But we'll talk about that in a second. AEW Tag Team Championship match, the Guns versus the Acclaimed versus Jarrett and Lethal versus Danhausen and Orange Cassidy. Raj, to your point about this tag team division looking weak, it shocks me that we are in one of their 4 biggest shows of the year and no Lucha Bros, no Young Bucks, no FTR. They've got some big guns in the tag team division, and I'm a little disappointed we're getting Danhausen and Orange Cassidy and like Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal and the Guns.
Have Orange Cassidy and Danhausen ever teamed on Dynamite?
I
don't think so, right?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, just the tag team division just feels really weak right now. I think the Acclaimed has to win. They're the biggest stars. They're the most over. It seemed too soon for them to lose it when they lost it. So I'm going with the Acclaimed.
Yeah, I'm going with the Acclaimed also. I was hoping that the Guns won it so that they could pivot it to somebody else without the Acclaimed losing to another like babyface team or something. But yeah, if this is what we're getting, then I don't really get it. I just want Acclaimed to win, and then I want Acclaimed to start having really good matches with the top teams, like the Lucha Bros and the FTRs and the like. What I like about WWE is they'll give us our big matches. You know what I mean? I want my big matches at AEW. I know this will be exciting and fun, and I'm sure it's got a lot of near falls. I'm going to be into it, but give me the big matches. You only have 4 big shows a year. This is your SummerSlam. Give me a big match. Don't give me Acclaimed versus 3 teams that don't really wrestle on Dynamite very often. Well, Jarrett and Lethal do, but that's only recently. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We get AEW World Championship Iron Man match, MJF versus Bryan Danielson. What are the odds, Raj, that Bryan Danielson gets the win here?
I don't see it. I mean, stranger things have happened, but I think it's just too soon for MJF to lose it. It's his first, right? Title defense on pay-per-view. So, Tony Khan is one of those guys. He cares about his titles. He's not doing, the back and forth quick title changes with the world title. So, I think MJF has to win it. Again, I'm not a big fan of marathon matches. I wasn't a big fan of Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels. Some people might be angry about that, but it's like only the last 5 minute counts of these. But,
right.
MJF has to win, and hopefully they do something at the end, like Adam Cole coming out or something to pop the crowd after MJF wins, and you move on to the next big challenger.
Yeah, hopefully they've got something lined up. Because I agree, I can't imagine Bryan Danielson getting the win without it making MJF look like a total chump for losing it on his first go round.
And I do got to say too, we were talking about the build. I didn't like the build where they were repeating the whole angle where MJF has to beat, or Danielson has to beat these guys that MJF is setting up, because they've done that so many times recently. Obviously, you're always repeating angles, but they've done it so many times in recent memory. But the promos that they've done the last couple of weeks, and that promo that Danielson did on Dynamite, I thought was just fantastic. I thought it was one of the best promos of the year, and it was just a great go-home promo. So I felt like the build the last couple of weeks really, really stepped up.
Yeah, their promo work has been awesome. It's like you said, sort of the story of you got to get through my list of challengers before you can get to me. And the Iron Man match, I'm bummed out because I'm with you. I'm not a huge Iron Man match fan at the end of the day. Also, when I feel like it's 90% MJF is going to win this. So I feel like I have to watch an hour of what I know the outcome is probably going to be. So that's a little disappointing too, but you never know. So that's what's going to keep me engaged. Scale of 1 to 10 for you, Raj, and everyone watching. What's your excitement level for Revolution?
I'd say a 7, just because I feel like the main event, I really like the build the last couple of weeks, but the rest of the card, not really so much. Kind of what you said about Hangman Page and Moxley. It's just kind of been like, I beat you, you beat me. It should be great. I have a feeling. And that's the thing. I think this pay-per-view is going to end up being really good, but excitement level is not just because the storylines haven't been there. I wouldn't say it's the highest of other AEW pay-per-views.
This one, I'm going to be totally honest. I think this is the least hyped I've been for an AEW pay-per-view going into it. And like you said, I guarantee the matches are going to be great. I'm sure you'll see me on Twitter going, Samoa Joe and Wardlow are killing it. This is incredible, and it probably will be, but I'm just not jazzed going into it. I'm not like, I can't wait to see this. It's kind of like, oh, this will be good. I'm sure it'll be fine. So I'm hoping I'm proven wrong. We got a lot of 5 out of 10s, 8s. Night one with an 8. Tornado saying a mid 7. 6 out of 10 from Brandon. kind of about there. Yeah, I'd say I'm about there. So we'll see. Hopefully it over delivers, but we'll have to see. Again, we've said about AEW before, they need to start getting this some stories intact. But look, we've got an hour. We went over. I didn't think this was going to be a long episode. Every time I think it's going to be short and we end up going long. Before we go, Raj, where can we find you online and everything you're working on and all that good stuff?
Check out my Twitter, the Raj Giri, and then check out me and Jack Farmer at Practical Money on YouTube, youtube.com/@Practical Money. We did our last episode last week, looking at ways you can make thousands of dollars back a year just by using your credit card. And, obviously we're not saying get into debt, but right. Pay off your credit card and make money in the process.
Yes, I personally found thousands of dollars I did not know I have. So it's a great episode to check out, Practical Money. You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. Thank you to Tornado Anthony Y, Night One, Brandon Hearn, Baby Ice. Is it Krana Shaw? Let me know if I'm saying that right. Night One, Darla, and everyone else. A. O'Donnell, 26. Good to see you. And everyone else. Thank J.R. Smith as well. Thank you guys so much for joining us in the live chat. Killer Demons and Nelly Belly popping in at the end there. Make sure to hit the like button, share, comment, subscribe. Again, this is a new show, so it's really important if you can. Veggie Gamer as well. I see a copy and paste the link, throw it into social media. That's always really helpful. But that does it for us. Make sure to check out at Wrestling Inc. for all the different news for pro wrestling, as well as the After SmackDown and After Rampage show. And I'm going to be on the After Revolution shows with you, right, Raj?
Yeah, you, me, and Issa. So that should be fun. I haven't done AEW pay-per-view in a while.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one. You'll get to hear us, and we'll get to see if the hype paid off, or if I should have been hyped. If I'm disappointed, we'll see how it is. But until then, check all those places out, and we will see you guys next time.